everyone, Neve here, and today I am doing another tarot tag, and this one, or a VR video response. This one is the only 10 decks, and I believe this was started by Katey Flowers. And if I'm wrong, then I will put who actually started it on the screen. Anyway, and yes, I know I'm super late to this tag. Like I said before, I just started doing these tags, so I probably am going to be doing a lot of older ones or ones that are long past and over with. Anyway, so this was a bit of a tricky task here, trying to figure out which of my decks, narrowing it down to 10 that I would keep if I could only keep 10 decks, and that includes all decks, like not just tarot, but Oracle, Lenormand, whatever. So yeah, and that was a bit difficult. In some ways, it was actually, I could easily narrow it down to 9, and then it was like trying to figure out that last one, But yeah, anyway, so, yeah, let me start with, I chose 2 Lenormands, 2 Oracles, and one of the Oracles is actually a bit of a cheat, and I'll explain when I get there, and you can decide for yourself if I failed this task or not, based on this cheat. But, alright, so 2 Lenormands, 2 Tarot, and 6, or 2 Lenormands, 2 Oracle, and 6 Tarot. Anyway, alright, so let's start with the first Lenormand. And I have it just in this simple purple bag. This came in one of my Witch's Moon boxes. I can't remember what it was holding, but it was nice and large enough for my deck here. And this is my deck that I created. This is a Lenormand deck, and I actually did all the artwork on each one of these. And this is the actual artwork themselves, and I backed it. I did it on Bristol board and then backed it with scrapbook paper. And yeah, and I do have a version of this. I scanned each card and kind of shrunk it down or adjusted it or cleaned it up a bit and put it on make playing cards. And I have it in 2 sizes. I have it in a normal bridge size, and I have it in the mini size. Yeah, if I remember, maybe I'll put the dimensions on the screen. But there is a link to this in the description if you would like a copy of this. It won't look like this exactly, because it'll be, I did a different, like, border or something with the words. In the mini version, I just put the number and the playing card association. But in the bigger size, the bridge size, it does list the name underneath. And for mine, instead of man and woman, I did person and partner. So, but in the mini version, it doesn't say person or partner. It just has the 2 images of the people with the number and the playing card association. So you can decide for yourself. So there we go. And let me just finish off, yeah. Oh, and I already did that one. Okay, but anyway, so that is the first one that I would keep. There we go. All right, so the next one I would keep is also Lenormand, and is also very personal. And that is the Bitmoji Lenormand here that I created. These are the backs. This is my character that I created in Bitmoji. I'm gonna see if I can get close so you can see. Let's see. There we go. All right, so this is the backs for my Bitmoji, and oops. Oh, right. These are my extra cards, and I'll show those in a second. So I have an extra card for cross. I have a Celtic cross here, or I have like basically an X. So those are the options I have for cross. And then for rider, I have either the axolotl or the bee, and the axolotl faces this way and the bee faces that way. So there we go. And I choose the axolotl and the Celtic cross one. For was it anchor? No. So I have lots of different options for the person and partner, for man, woman. I'll get there. But yeah, so I would keep this one because this is me. You know, this is my character. So obviously I would want to keep this one. So there we go. Let me see if I can find the person. Oh, I love this one for heart because I knit. So there were, with the instructions on how to make your own Bitmoji deck, which if I can find, I'll leave down in the description. They had a different option for heart, but I chose this image because I knit. So I liked this one more. So, all right. Whoops. Just throwing the cards across the room. Mice, key, tree, sun, birds, dog, fish, stork, home. I chose the cross stitch one. Let me see if it'll focus. There we go. Cross stitch one, and then the snake, ring, stars. This is bear. I chose a water bear or a tardigrade. So there we go. Ship, tower, moon, child, I believe. And here is what I have for man and woman. This is my husband and this is me. But the other options are like a robot or a unicorn. And they also like face different directions. Let me see if it'll focus. There we go. So a robot or unicorn, these two face each other. Same with my husband and me. They can face each other or face apart. And then here's, it's me dressed up in a suit and me dressed up in a gown. And these ones aren't facing opposite directions, but one is facing this way. So you can, you know, think of this as facing that way. And her arm is facing that way. So yeah, so I had different options for the person and partner card. And different options for writer and for cross. All right, so that is my Bitmoji Lenormand, and that is the last of my Lenormand cards in here. And these ones I made in the square size. I have another deck that is also in the square size that I created, though it's not in this tag. It was the Ghibli Lenormand, just scenes from various Studio Ghibli movies. And obviously I can't sell that or anything because it's just a personal thing, and I don't have the rights for it. All right, so the next set, this is an oracle deck, and I chose the Animal Spirit Oracle, the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit. And you know, it's funny, I don't really use the Wild Unknown Tarot, but I found that I really like this Animal Spirit Oracle. And it just has the name of the animal plus an elemental symbol and of course the artwork. So there is a level of intuitiveness to this, but also an elemental element to this or aspect to this. Yeah, and I just, you know, this deck seems to go with a lot of different tarot decks, and yeah. And I also like the simple drawing. Because of that, it does go well with lots of different decks. There's something about this deck that I get more out of this deck than I do the Wild Unknown Tarot. And I can't exactly explain it because this deck doesn't have keywords on it. It just has the name of the animal. And a lot of people wouldn't like that. It just has the animal name and nothing else beyond that. So it is a book that you would have to use the book with, unless you are completely reading intuitively, which I don't. I want to know what the book, I want to know what the intention was behind each card. So I do use the book with this. If I use this deck, I pull out the book with it. And it is a very nice book. I didn't bring it here for this video, but yeah. And I really love the artwork in this. For some reason, this deck just speaks to me. And I don't know how else to explain it. I can completely understand why it wouldn't work for other people, because there's no other keywords. And yeah, but I think I also really like the size of them. They're typical tarot size. So it melds well with other decks, and I think it's the exact same size as the Wild Unknown, which obviously that's what it's intended to go with, and I really like the simple backings. So yeah, there's something about this deck, of all my Oracle decks, that this one just speaks to me the most, and I'm able to pull it out and get messages from it, and yeah. So because of that, this would be one of the few Oracle decks that I would keep if I could only keep 10 decks. All right, so next up. Now this is the cheat. So you can decide whether I have failed this task or if this counts. And it's a cheat because this is an oracle. I have combined 2 decks into 1 deck. So, and you can tell the backings are different. So this is the, oh my goodness. Druid animal and the druid plant. Druid animal and druid plant oracles. And I have combined them into 1 deck. They're the same size. The backings are slightly different. There's green versus blue, and they both have the copyright, which is kind of annoying, but you know, whatever. But yes, and this has the same sort of feeling as the other deck, where it's just the name of the animal or the name of the herb. So you do have to use the books with this, and there's a bit of a you know, a study. You kind of have to study this and use the book to really know, or you can read it completely intuitively. I mean, this one's got the lightning in the back, so you can kind of have an intuitive idea of what that could mean. There is a blank card, yeah, that I have in the deck. I think you can leave it out, or it also has a specific meaning, the blank card. And I can't remember if this is just in the animal deck or just in the plant deck, or if there's 2 of these, like 1 in each. I'm not sure. I really like the salmon card. Yeah, so I just, you know, I don't really use my druid tarot, the druidcraft, yes. I don't really use that so much anymore. And that's why it's actually, spoiler alert, not in this only 10 decks thing. But I do find that I use these decks, this deck, because, yeah, it's not... Oh, there is another one. I don't know if I'm getting my words out correctly, but anyway, yeah, anyway, this would be one of the decks that I keep. Now, if I want to get technical and separate this into 2 decks, which one would I keep? Oh, there's 3. Huh. Which one would I keep? I'm not sure. I think I would keep the animal one. But then ask me 5 minutes from now and I might see the plant one. So this is 1 deck to me. So so you tell me, did I fail this, or is it acceptable that I've included a deck that I've combined 2 decks in? So you make your decision there. You know. All right, so now we're on to the tarot decks. All right, so I've kind of loosely organized this to least to greatest, sort of. I don't know. I guess I could interchange a lot of these. All right, so the first one here, this is the bag that I made for it. Very pretty. Ooh, just dropping it. And I went with like a brown theme here, browns and golds and greens. There we go. And it's a tree on here because this deck is the relative tarot. So it's got, you know, the family tree and things like that, just like the background here. So this was actually the last one I picked, because I wasn't sure. I fairly easily chose the other 5 here, but this one was my last pick, and I picked this because I use this for something very specific. I use this deck for ancestral work, And it is actually somewhat of a new deck for me. I got this for Christmas for my dad. Ooh, there's the Eight of Pentacles. My dad got me this deck. And my dad and I are both genealogists. So it was a very fitting deck to get for my dad. And I also got the book Ancestral Tarot by Nancy Hendrickson, and I've been trying to work through that. I haven't really done anything for March or most of it. February. I mostly did a lot of ancestor readings in January, probably because the deck is brand new and the book was brand new. But I do plan on doing that again, especially in April and May, wanting to do more ancestral work and bringing out this deck. So this is so far the only deck I use with ancestor work. Yeah, so that's basically why I chose to keep it, because I have a specific task for this deck in particular. And I really love this deck. I love the images. It really sets me into that ancestor mode. I really wish because I got the mass market version. I missed out on the independent deck. I was watching it when it was available, but I was in a phase of my life where I was not spending my money on tarot stuff. So I just never ended up getting it, and I was real bummed about it because I had it on my wish list, but never got it. And then it got picked up for mass market, which I was thrilled by, and I was so excited to get it. But the independent version came with a separate oracle deck that was actual pictures of people's ancestors. Well, I mean, obviously these are too in a way, but I mean, it was people's, God, how do I explain that? It was the backers. They sent in pictures of their own ancestors and things like that. And it was an oracle deck as a companion to this tarot deck. And I really, really wanted it. This is a great King of Pentacles. I really, really wanted that deck, but that version it did not come out in mass market. So unfortunately, I didn't get that, but maybe someday it will. I think there's an issue with the fact that it's other people's, maybe the pictures can't be fully authenticated because they're other people's ancestors. I don't know. Anyway, so the next deck, this is also fairly new to my collection. The first 3 of these are new to my collection, and then the last 3 I've had for a long time. So this I showed recently on my channel. This is the Morgan-greer tarot and the bag that I made for it, and I bought the mini version, the one in the tin. So there we go. And I put this in my only 10 decks selection because I wanted to keep a very Rider-Waite-Smith, a deck that was very much Rider-Waite-Smith, had the images almost exact. And I could have chosen this, or I could have chosen the Golden Universal deck, which I also have, and I also like that one. But if I had to pick a deck that was very Rider-Waite-Smith, had all the imagery of it, and only one of those, I think I would choose this one. Just because like I said in my previous video, there's something very familiar about these cards. A lot of the men in this deck are mustached and make me think of men of a certain era, like my dad, my uncles, people from a specific time, you know what I mean? So there's something very familiar about this deck. I keep trying to stay in frame, sorry if I'm not, but something very familiar about this that I just connect with. And I love the Golden Universal, which I also have. That's my other very Rider-Waite-Smith depicted deck. But if I only had to choose one to keep, it would be this one, I think, even though this one's my newer one. And it's not just because this is newer. It's that you know, these are very clear for me. And this is also why it was in my sharpshooters video or tag, whatever. But yeah, so not much else for me to say about this one because I did just talk about it. So yeah, this, I would keep this of the Rider-Waite-Smith heavy decks that I have. This would be the one that I would keep. All right, so I'm gonna put this away here. All right, so next deck. And this one was another one that I wasn't sure about. I almost picked this one with the Pagan Otherworlds, but just like with my last video, because I had those in the same, because these two decks are very, very similar. And I guess because of that, I had to choose between the two, you know? And that is the Anima Mundi Tarot. This is also a deck that is pretty new to me. I either got this for Christmas or my birthday. I think it was for Christmas. And my sister-in-law got this deck for me. I had it on my wish list, and she was very kind to get this deck for me. And here is the bag that I made for it, which I absolutely love. So I chose this deck because... okay, one, I love it. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It shuffles like a dream, like a freaking dream. Like, this is my favorite cardstock. It's just the right size for me. I gotta sit down to do this, and I'm in pain because my husband and I have been doing a boxing routine, not against each other, a video game boxing thing, and oh my god, I am so sore. But anyway, so it just, I can even bridge it, no problems. With my small childlike hands, I'm still able to easily shuffle this deck, and I absolutely love this cardstock. And it's not thick. It's like that, but it's not super thin either. It's just right. This is by far my favorite cardstock. So anyway, this deck I chose, and it was between this one and the Pagan Otherworlds, because both of these decks have a very similar, I'm going to stand next to the camera again. Both of these decks have a very similar feeling to them. They're both, what I would say, very serious. There's a seriousness to both of those decks, this one and the Pagan Otherworlds. I chose this one just because I feel like I connect to it a little bit more. Whereas they're both very otherworldly to me. They're both very spiritual. Both decks are very spiritual, and I would do a lot of spiritual work with them. But this one, there's something that's a bit more grounding. Whereas the other one, I could see myself using the other one also for ancestral work, because there's something ancient about it. And I like that. I really, really like that with the Pagan Otherworlds. Both of these, like, if I could only keep one, though, I would keep the Anima Mundi. And it's just, you know, it's something I can bring a little bit to earth with. You know what I mean? Like, I can use it for spiritual stuff. I mean, you could use any deck for any purpose, but it's what I would usually use this for. And I really like this deck for full moon or even new moon readings, things like that. I love this card, this Two of Wands. This is just gorgeous. I love, whoops, just throwing a card across the room. I love galaxy type things. So I'm totally drawn to that. Yeah, there's a seriousness to this deck that, that a lot of my other decks don't quite have. Not to mention the shuffling I can do easily, and because, you know, when I get to shuffling, I can kind of get meditative with it, and I can't quite do that with overhand shuffle. Like, I can, but it's not quite as well as if I just sit there shuffling a deck. Yeah, and I can get into kind of a meditative place with that. And I can't do that with the Pagan Otherworlds because the cards, like, they're nice and linen like this, but they're too big for me. So I can do riffle shuffling with it, but it's, I really like this Hangman. I can do riffle shuffling with it, but it's I can't bridge it for sure, and it's too, I can't get into a meditative state trying to riffle shuffle that. So for those reasons, I chose the Anima Mundi as my, as one of my only 10 decks. All right, so I'm not going to speak too much on this. Oh, and I also, one of the other reasons I picked this deck is because I do have been enjoying doing Bridget readings with this deck, and I mean the goddess Bridget. Readings for the goddess Bridget. I haven't dedicated this deck to her, and I don't think that I will. However, I do very much enjoy this deck when trying to commune with Bridget. So yeah. All right, so that is the Anima Mundi Tarot. All right, next up. Oof. Oh, my body aches. All right, so these next three. So I kind of, let me see if, I think I'm going to put it in this order, actually. I'm going to put it like this. So I had it in a different order off to the side. And that's another thing. It's like, you know, ask me 10 minutes from now and I might have a different order of these, or I might even have a different deck in these and switch something out. So, yeah, so let's do this one. This is my, this is the deck I made for it. I went for a, like a Celtic crow or raven for the front, and these Celtic knot raven border right here. And this is the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinane. And I have found that I really love her decks. I just recently got the Wise Dog Tarot, which I love. And I just ordered, because they had a special on the website that I don't know if is still there or not, but there was a special on their website, MJ Cullinane's website. So when this goes up, you could go check, because it might still be there, where you could get the Grimalkin Tarot plus the, the Guardians of the Night Tarot. You can get both of them for the price of one. And it is only available on her website. I do not know if it's still there, but if it is, go check. Go check to make sure it is. And if it is, and you haven't gotten Grimalkin or the Guardians of the Night, go pick them up. So they're on their way to me right now, and I just recently got the Wise Dog Tarot as well. But I chose the Crow Tarot as one of the only 10 decks that I would keep. I've had this for quite a while now, over a year, and I chose this deck because this deck in particular is dedicated to a deity for me. I only use this deck when communicating with the Morgan, or getting advice from the Morgan, or just talking to her. Oh, do I have some of these upside down? I do. Okay. I don't read reversals, so... yeah, so, it's funny because when I first got this deck in, before I got it in, I knew I was going to dedicate it to the Morgan. I was only going to use this deck for Morgan readings. Oh man, did I shuffle in reversals? If I did, I did not mean to, but anyway, I knew before I got this in that I was going to dedicate this to the Morgan. Yeah, there's more reversals. I must have shuffled this wrong. But when I got it in, I was starting to second guess doing that, because, you know, the artwork in this isn't something I normally like. The collage sort of artwork is not something I'm usually drawn to, but there's something about the way she did it in these decks that I really appreciate and I really like. Yeah, and it took me going through a deep dive, a full deep dive with this deck, to really understand it, to be drawn to it, to connect with it, and to connect the Morgan with it. Because at first, I was second guessing that, and I couldn't take it back because I had already dedicated this to her. But I wasn't sure that I made the right decision until I did my deep dive. And I can firmly say now that, yes, this is my Morgan deck. She's responded to this. Yeah, I I think it's maybe the artwork that took me a little while to get used to and to fully understand. I don't like the coloring of this 10 of cups. It's a little too yellow for me. But anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that it took me a while to get used to this, but now that I am used to it and I've bonded with it, and I've done all sorts of Morgan readings with it. I try to use this deck on the new moons when I do my Morgan readings. I also use the Murder of Crows tarot with the Morgan, though that one is not specifically dedicated to her, but I do sometimes use that deck as well. And I also have a Morgan Oracle deck by, oh my gosh, Morpheus Ravenna, the one who wrote that big tome of a book, the Great Queen Morgan book. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, she wrote that book, and she also did a like a picture book, like a Goodnight Morgan type book, and she did a Morgan Oracle, and I often use that with my Crow Tarot. All right, so yes, I would keep this as one of my top decks, primarily because I use this deck with the Morgan. So next one. All right, and we saw this one recently. This is the bag I made for it. And it is not a Maiden Mother Crone thing. This is just a triple moon. I don't follow Maiden Mother Crone anymore, but that's something I've kind of left out of my practice for a very long time. But I am still very much drawn to the triple moon, primarily because of its astrological nature. I would say that my practice is still very astrological, or cosmic, I guess would be the better term. There's a cosmic nature to my practice that is still very much, part of my practice. So I still very much connect with the triple moon, but not necessarily to the Maiden Mother Crone archetype. Anyway, so this deck is the Book of Shadows, So Below. And I'm not going to talk too long about this because this was in my last tag video. But I really love this deck because it is a straight sharpshooter for me. It's just the deck that I can go to for everyday stuff because it's firmly rooted in the modern world. But there's kind of some magic-y elements to it. It's pagans of today, if that makes sense. And not specifically Wiccan either. Wiccan or New Agey. It's just kind of general modern pagans. And there is a little bit of Wicca in here. Like there was that one card that she was reading a book or a magazine that had the word Wicca on it. So, I mean, that's about as Wiccan as this deck gets. In general, it's just every day. And the images in here, I love this tower card because it really exemplifies what a modern day tower moment might look like. You know what I mean? And like this woman, first of all, the colors really exemplify that feeling. And then she's on the phone, and you can tell she just got world crashing news on the phone. And that's what's going on here. And this is what I like about this deck is it doesn't take much thinking to really, like, it's a sharpshooter for me. And this one's kind of pagan-y because here's this woman doing some ritual or goddess type veneration, and this is the Judgment card, which kind of has that spiritual kind of religious element to it, and there is a pentacle here. So, but in general, it could be applied to almost any modern pagan practice. And that's what I liked about this deck is that it's very modern day. It's very I can easily understand what's going on in the images based on everyday sort of stuff, but it's got that little bit of a pagan flair to it, if that makes sense. Anyway, so that is the So Below deck. The Book of Shadows, So Below. I don't really use the As Above deck anymore, and I explained that in the previous video. So, all right. So my final top 10 deck, and I'm pretty sure if you've seen my other videos, you know what this one is. You know what this video, or this deck is, and that is my Anima Tarot. And this is my favorite deck. First of all, I like that the cardstock is on the thin side because I can easily shuffle this deck. And because of that, I can get into a meditative state with it. I can bridge it, I can shuffle it. I have no problems shuffling this deck with my tiny hands. And this is the mass market version. I never got the independent version. And I am very interested in getting Anika's Lenormand deck to use with this. But I love this deck. There's something extremely comforting about this deck, and this is probably one of my oldest decks that I have here, along with the Book of Shadows So Below deck. Both of these are some of my oldest decks, and yeah, there is just something very comforting about this deck, and not comforting like love and light type of comforting. It's not like a hug deck or anything. It's like getting advice from an old friend, and some of that advice is hard and calls me out, and you know, whatever. But it's always done in a sort of friendly sort of way, and yeah, and the colors in this deck are very bold and bright, and I've learned that I am very much drawn to those bold, bright colors, and these are very primary. I love all the yellow cards. Yeah, I really like this deck. There's I love this star card, so pretty. But there's just something to this I can't fully explain. The faces they're all very Cabbage Patch doll looking, but they're very, very expressive. And I can easily, and it's a sharpshooter for me too, and that's why this was also in my sharpshooter VR. But it's just, yeah, I can't really put it into words. I just really love this deck, and if I want to go to something that's tried and true, and I know I'm gonna get the answers, it's gonna be this deck. Yeah, and I was initially before I got the Crow Tarot, I was using this deck a little bit with the Morgan, and you know, because this is a deck that I use just frequently and for various things, I'm not gonna dedicate this to any specific thing or any specific deity or anything like that. So I knew I just wanted a deck just for the Morgan, and that's why I got the Crow Tarot. But the readings I got with the Morgan with this deck were also excellent. So yeah, overall, this is my favorite deck, and it would be my top pick. All right, so let me go ahead and get all of these decks out into this realm, and so I have a thumbnail. All right. Okay, here we go. So we have my Long Weekend Lenormand, my Bitmoji Lenormand, the Druid Animal and Druid Plant oracles, though for the purpose of this video, I guess if I had to pick which one I want the most, I guess the animal one, but ask me again in 5 minutes, it might be the other one. And the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit oracle, the Relative Tarot, Morgan-greer Tarot in a tin, Anima Mundi Tarot, the Crow Tarot, the So Below Tarot, and the Anima Tarot. All right, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!